Title: The Vanishing of Amy Lynn Bradley, a cruise ship mystery that still haunts the FBI. March 24th, 1998. A seemingly ordinary day on a luxury cruise ship sailing through the Caribbean Sea. Families gathered for breakfast. Children ran down the carpeted hallways with excitement. Music drifted from open doors. Tourists prepared to explore a new island. But for one family, the Bradleys, this day would become a living nightmare, because on this day, their daughter, 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley, vanished, without a trace. No screams, no splashes in the water, no signs of struggle, no alarms, no footage, no explanation, just gone. Amy was smart, strong, athletic, a recent college graduate with a degree in physical education. She was excited about her future. She had just accepted a new job and was celebrating with her family, her parents, Ron and Iva, and her younger brother Brad, on a week-long Caribbean cruise aboard Rhapsody of the Seas. It was supposed to be a joyful break before adult life officially began, a family getaway filled with sunshine, laughter, dancing, and memories. But instead, it became a dark, tangled mystery that would consume their lives for decades to come. The night before, Amy had danced at the ship's nightclub with her brother and members of the ship's band. By morning, she had vanished from their cabin balcony without a sound. Her sandals, cigarettes, and lighter were still there. But Amy was not. The cruise ship was in the middle of the sea. There were no open exits, no unmonitored areas, and thousands of passengers on board. How could someone disappear in such a controlled environment? How could no one see anything? How could there be no cameras, no witnesses, no clues? From that moment forward, Amy Lynn Bradley's name would become one of the most perplexing cases in the FBI's missing persons files. In the days that followed, bizarre details would emerge. Crew members acting strangely, a waiter who spoke too soon, conflicting witness reports, rumors of possible trafficking, chilling sightings, mysterious photographs, and perhaps most tragically, a cruise company more concerned with reputation than recovery. Over the years, her family has refused to give up. They've appeared on Dr. Philippines. They've pleaded with the media. They've traveled across countries, chasing leads. They've worked with the FBI, private investigators, and experts in human trafficking. But still, no answers, no closure, just heartbreak and hope. Because the truth is, this isn't just a mystery. This is a warning that even in places that feel safe, even in vacation paradise, darkness can hide. This is Case Vault, and in today's investigation, we dive deep into one of the most baffling, emotional, and disturbing true crime cases of the last 25 years. This is the story of Amy Lynn Bradley, and what may have really happened on that cruise ship, on that quiet March morning, when paradise turned to nightmare. Amy Lynn Bradley was born on May 12, 1974, in the quiet city of Petersburg, Virginia, a historic town steeped in tradition, family values, and Southern charm. From a young age, Amy stood out. She was bold, athletic, determined. She didn't just participate, she led. Whether it was on the basketball court, the swim team, or in school activities, Amy gave her all. But beyond her physical strength and fierce spirit, Amy was warm-hearted, loyal, and deeply connected to her family. Her parents, Ron and Iva, and her younger brother Brad, meant everything to her. They weren't just relatives, they were a unit, a close-knit team who supported each other through everything. After years of hard work, Amy graduated with a degree in physical education. She had her sights set on a bright future, having recently accepted a new job at a local university. She was just 23, standing at the threshold of her adult life, ready to take on the world. Her career was about to begin, her independence was growing, and she was full of energy, excitement, and hope for what came next. To mark this new chapter in her life, the Bradley family planned a celebratory vacation. A Caribbean cruise, one of those once-in-a-lifetime trips designed to relax, recharge, and spend quality time together before life got busy again. The ship they chose was Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas, a gleaming vessel known for its luxury, entertainment, and exotic ports of call. On March 21, 1998, the family boarded the ship in San Juan, Puerto Rico, full of joy and anticipation. The mood was light. Amy was in great spirits. She had even told friends before leaving that she was excited, though a little nervous about being on a ship. She had a healthy fear of open water and preferred staying close to the pool deck rather than the edge. Still, she was thrilled to spend time with her family and experience something new. As the cruise got underway, the days were filled with sunshine, warm tropical breezes, and family fun. They dined together, explored the ship's many attractions, and soaked up the beauty of the Caribbean. Amy especially enjoyed the music and dancing. She and Brad often hit the ship's nightclub, called the Disco, to dance and unwind. Photos from the trip show Amy smiling, laughing, relaxed. She looked exactly like what she was, a young woman enjoying the rewards of years of hard work, surrounded by the people she loved most. There were no signs that anything was wrong, no indication that this trip would become anything other than a treasured memory. But within days, everything changed. What began as a joyful family vacation quickly unraveled into a chilling nightmare. By the morning of March 24th, Amy was gone, vanished without explanation, without a sound, without a trace. The celebration turned into chaos. The laughter turned to panic, and the ship that had promised joy now carried only questions. For the Bradleys, this cruise would mark the last time they would see their daughter. It would become the moment that split their lives in two, before the disappearance and after. Amy's case would become one of the most haunting mysteries in modern true crime. It would captivate investigators, journalists, and the public alike, fueled by chilling clues, strange witness reports, and theories that led to darker places than anyone could have imagined. But in the beginning, before the search teams, the news reports, the sightings, and the heartbreak, there was just Amy, a loving daughter, a protective sister, a vibrant young woman with dreams, ambition, and a future waiting for her back home. And all she wanted was to celebrate that future with her family. March 23, 1998. The second full day of the Bradleys' Caribbean cruise aboard Rhapsody of the Seas. The mood was light, the drinks were flowing, and the family was enjoying every moment. They had visited Curaçao earlier that day, a picturesque island with white sand beaches and colorful Dutch-style buildings. Amy had even bought souvenirs and mailed postcards, one of which mentioned how beautiful the island was and how excited she was about her new job. That night, Amy and her younger brother Brad decided to check out the ship's nightclub known as the Disco. It was a vibrant place, neon lights, pulsing music, and people from all over the world dancing into the early morning hours. Amy, outgoing and confident, had no trouble blending into the crowd. She danced, laughed, and chatted with other passengers. She was especially seen talking with the members of the ship's house band, Blue Orchid, a Caribbean-style band that played live music throughout the cruise. One band member in particular, known by the nickname Yellow, seemed to take a special interest in Amy. Witnesses recall seeing the two dancing and speaking closely at the bar. There were even photographs taken that night, some showing Amy dancing, smiling, and clearly enjoying herself. Brad, who was there with her the entire evening, said she had a good time. Nothing seemed unusual or alarming. They both returned to the family's cabin sometime after 3:30 a.m. Amy went out to the balcony while Brad went to bed. A little while later, around 5:15 to 5:30 a.m., their father, Ron Bradley, woke up. He glanced out onto the balcony and saw Amy sitting there, quietly gazing out at the ocean. She appeared calm, peaceful. He drifted back to sleep. But when Ron woke up again just before 6 a.m., Amy was gone. The balcony door was still slightly open. Her shoes were still in the room. Her pack of cigarettes, her lighter. Everything was untouched. But Amy had vanished. At first, the Bradleys thought maybe she'd gone to the pool deck to take photos or get coffee. They weren't overly alarmed yet. But as minutes turned into an hour and Amy failed to return or respond, worry started to grow. By 6:30 a.m., Ron was searching every corner of the ship, cabins, hallways, the dining room, lounges. Nothing. He went to the ship's staff and begged them to make an announcement over the ship-wide intercom. Something like, "Amy Bradley, please report to the information desk." But the crew refused. They claimed it was too early and didn't want to disturb other passengers. Worse still, by the time any real action was taken, the ship had already docked in Curaçao. Hundreds of passengers had already left the vessel for the day's excursions. If Amy had been abducted and taken off the ship, it might have happened right under their noses. It was a devastating blow. Ron and Iva knew their daughter. She wasn't someone who would just walk away. She was responsible. She was grounded. She had plans. She wouldn't leave without telling anyone, and she certainly wouldn't disappear without her shoes. The family desperately pleaded with security to review surveillance footage from the ship, but the cameras were poorly placed. The deck cameras didn't fully cover the Bradleys' corridor or balcony, and according to staff, there was no footage of Amy leaving, no images of her falling, no splashes, no screams, no one saw her jump. She was just gone. As the hours passed, panic turned into horror, and the Bradleys began to suspect what no parent ever wants to believe. Someone may have taken her. Theories began to circulate among passengers and investigators. Some suggested that Amy had been abducted, possibly by someone she met that night, maybe even someone from the band or the crew. Others wondered if she had simply fallen overboard, but Amy was a trained lifeguard. She knew how to swim, and if she'd fallen into the water, her body would have likely been recovered nearby. No alarms had gone off, no reports of anyone seeing or hearing a struggle. No one had heard a splash. There was no evidence that Amy had gone overboard, but there was also no evidence she was still on the ship. By the time the FBI was contacted and began their investigation, it was too late. Crucial hours had been lost. The ship had continued its journey, and any potential leads from Curaçao were already growing cold. To this day, the timeline from 3:30 to 6 a.m. on March 24th remains critical and still deeply puzzling. Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance didn't happen in the chaos of a war zone or a remote wilderness. It happened in the controlled, contained environment of a cruise ship, a place that should have been safe, a place where someone should have seen something, but no one did. Or if they did, they haven't come forward. This is Case Vault, and this is the next chapter in the unsolved mystery of Amy Lynn Bradley. That morning, the ship docked in Curaçao, a small Dutch Caribbean island with colorful buildings, clear blue waters, and a reputation for being a peaceful port of call. Vacationers were beginning to wake up, stretch out, and prepare for another carefree day in paradise. But in cabin 2059, the Bradley family was facing something no one expects to face on a holiday cruise. Amy Lynn Bradley was missing. At first, the crew responded with routine answers. They assured Ron and Iva Bradley that Amy had probably disembarked early and would return soon. After all, passengers sometimes slip off the ship to explore the local shops or beaches before the main crowds arrive. But Ron and Iva knew their daughter. They knew her habits. They knew she wouldn't just vanish. Amy didn't take her shoes. She didn't take her cigarettes. She didn't take her room key. And she certainly wouldn't have left without telling someone. Ron begged the ship's crew to make an announcement over the PA system to ask if anyone had seen Amy. He pleaded with them to prevent passengers from leaving the ship, just in case someone had information. just in case Amy was still on board. But his requests were denied. By the time they finally agreed to help, hours had passed. The ship had emptied out. Passengers were long gone into Curaçao. The trail had already begun to grow cold. And then came something even more unsettling. As Ron and Iva searched the ship in desperation, they were approached by a waiter, a man they had never met. Calmly, he said, "I'm sorry. She's gone." The words hit like a punch. How could he know that? The crew hadn't made any public announcements. The FBI hadn't arrived yet. The search hadn't officially begun. So how did this waiter, someone who wasn't part of the investigation, already know that Amy was gone? It was a chilling moment, one that raised even more questions. Was it a slip of the tongue, a simple assumption, or was it something more sinister? The band member, Yellow, who had danced with Amy just hours before, also raised suspicions. He gave conflicting stories about when he last saw her. Some reports said he claimed Amy had gone to bed early. Others say he implied she stayed out with friends. But security footage didn't back up either version. In fact, most of the cameras on the ship showed nothing. No footage of Amy walking the hallways. No footage of her leaving the ship. No one saw her fall. No one saw her jump. She simply ceased to exist in the record. When the FBI arrived, they treated it as a missing person case, not necessarily a crime. Posters were printed. Ship staff and passengers were interviewed. The Bradleys were desperate for answers. But then, something unexpected happened. Sightings. Not one, not two, but multiple people, on different islands at different times, claimed they saw Amy. Some were dismissed. Others seemed eerily credible. In one report, a taxi driver said he picked up a woman who looked like Amy. She appeared frightened. She kept her head low, and she wouldn't speak unless prompted. Another came from a Canadian man who said he saw a woman matching Amy's description in a public restroom in Curaçao. The woman, he claimed, looked scared and anxious. As he turned to leave, she whispered, "My name is Amy. I need help." And then she was gone. Years later, in 2005, a U.S. Navy petty officer came forward with a disturbing claim. He said he had been in a brothel during shore leave and saw a woman who told him her name was Amy Bradley. She begged for help. But before he could act, she was pulled away by a group of men. He didn't report it until months later, fearing repercussions. But when the story broke, it sent shockwaves through the media and reignited the theory that Amy hadn't fallen overboard, but had been taken. More sightings followed. Most were blurry, secondhand, hard to confirm. But each one left the Bradley family with a glimmer of hope and a deepening sense of horror. Was their daughter alive? Was she being held against her will? Why had the cruise line been so slow to act? Why had the security system failed so completely? And why had a random waiter, hours before any official word, said those chilling words? "I'm sorry, she's gone." Let's take a step back. Let's look at the facts and the theories. Because something terrible happened aboard Rhapsody of the Seas on that March morning in 1998. And over the years, scattered clues have emerged. Pieces of a puzzle that, when placed together, paint a disturbing picture. First, the sightings. These weren't just rumors or vague suggestions. These were multiple, detailed, independent reports from different people, in different places, across different years. The first came shortly after Amy disappeared. A Canadian man visiting Curaçao claimed he saw a woman in a public restroom near a local beach. She looked pale, anxious, shaken. As he turned to leave, she whispered something he wouldn't forget. "My name is Amy. I need help." He looked back, but by then, she was gone. At the time, he didn't know what it meant. But weeks later, when he returned home and saw the news, he realized who he might have seen. He contacted authorities who followed up, but by then, the trail had gone cold. Then came 2005. a U.S. Navy petty officer stationed in the Caribbean, came forward with a shocking account. He had visited a brothel while on shore leave. Inside, he saw a woman, thin, worn, clearly out of place. She pulled him aside and whispered, "My name is Amy Lynn Bradley. Please help me." She was then pulled away by several men. He didn't act immediately, fearful of getting in trouble. But the guilt weighed on him. Months later, when he returned to the States, he reported the incident. The FBI investigated, but by then the brothel had mysteriously burned down. No evidence remained. Fast forward to 2010. A photo surfaces online on an adult website, a blurry image, showing a woman lying on a bed. She appears bruised, chained, her eyes wide, haunted. The resemblance to Amy is striking. Experts analyzed the image. Some believed it was her, others weren't so sure. But her family, they were convinced. So, what happened? Let's examine the theories. Theory 1, Amy fell overboard. It's the most convenient explanation, the simplest, the one cruise lines often rely on when something goes wrong. But the facts don't support it. Amy was a trained swimmer, competitive, strong, confident in the water. The ship was docked, the waters were calm. And there were no signs of struggle, no splashes reported, no clothing left near the edge. Her shoes were still in the cabin, so were her cigarettes, and she was last seen sitting quietly on the balcony by her father, just minutes before she vanished. If she'd fallen, someone would have seen or heard something, but no one did. So, unlikely. Theory 2, Amy ran away. This idea has also been floated by some members of law enforcement and even by the cruise company itself. But again, the facts say otherwise. Amy had no reason to disappear. She had just graduated from Longwood University with a degree in physical education. She had a new job lined up. She was making plans. She was close, very close, to her family. Her relationship with her brother and parents was warm and supportive. She had no history of mental illness, no signs of distress, no behavior that would suggest she wanted to start over or vanish from her life. She had packed for a vacation, not a disappearance. So this theory doesn't hold up either. Theory 3, human trafficking. And here is where the case gets dark, because this theory, tragic as it is, makes the most sense. Let's look again. Amy disappears without a trace from a secure ship. Multiple credible sightings of her occur after the disappearance. She's seen in Curaçao, where the ship docked that morning. She's seen in a brothel. She's heard whispering her name, asking for help. The cruise line is slow to respond. A waiter tells her parents, "I'm sorry, she's gone," hours before anything is official. The band member Yellow, who spent time with Amy the night before, gives inconsistent stories. The ship's security cameras? Mysteriously, they don't capture her movements. Not even in hallways she would have had to pass through. Her family pleads for help, but are met with resistance at every turn. Put that all together, and a terrifying picture emerges. What if Amy was targeted on the cruise? What if someone, maybe even someone she met, was watching her, following her, planning something? It's possible she was lured or forced from her cabin. Maybe she was drugged. Maybe she was taken before anyone could react. The ship docked just hours after she vanished, and Curaçao is known to have a history of trafficking activity. Could she have been taken ashore, undercover, before anyone realized she was gone, and then sold, smuggled, hidden? The thought is horrifying, but increasingly it's the theory many believe is true. The Bradley family certainly believes it. They've never stopped searching, never stopped hoping, never stopped demanding answers. But over 25 years have passed, and Amy is still missing. Coming up next, we explore how the investigation unfolded, what the cruise line did and didn't do, and why the FBI may have lost critical time in those first 24 hours. This is Case Vault, and this is the ongoing mystery of Amy Lynn Bradley. Amy's family never stopped searching. From the very moment she vanished aboard Rhapsody of the Seas in March 1998, Ron and Iva Bradley, Amy's parents, refused to give up hope. And what followed was not just a campaign for answers, but a battle for truth. They appeared on every major national news platform that would have them. They spoke on CNN, The Early Show, Dateline, 48 Hours, Dr. Phil, and Oprah, sharing Amy's story with the world, hoping that someone, somewhere, might recognize her or come forward with new information. They turned their grief into purpose. They set up a dedicated website, created to house all details of the case, photos, timelines, contact information for tips. They printed flyers in multiple languages and distributed them across the Caribbean. They even posted monetary rewards for credible information. They didn't stop there. They hired private investigators, many with former law enforcement or intelligence backgrounds. These teams traveled to Curaçao, to Aruba, to Colombia, chasing every reported sighting, every whispered lead, every anonymous phone call. And over the years, there were many. Women who looked like Amy spotted in clubs, a woman resembling Amy photographed in an ad for an adult escort service, a Navy veteran who swore he saw her in a Caribbean brothel, a woman who mouthed, "My name is Amy. Help me." Each time, hope surged. Each time, heartbreak followed. But Ron and Iva never gave up. They followed every lead, no matter how thin. They did what many families in their position simply couldn't, invested every ounce of energy, time, and money into the search. They were determined to bring their daughter home, and they never forgot what they saw in Amy. Her strength, her independence, her kindness. They remembered the young woman who played college basketball, who dreamed of becoming a physical education teacher, who laughed with her brother Brad just hours before she vanished. Ron once said in an interview, "We're not looking for closure. We're looking for Amy. That's all we want, just to know where she is or what happened to her." That quiet statement echoes louder than any headline. Even decades later, their mission has not changed. The FBI continues to list Amy Lynn Bradley as a missing person. Her case remains open and active. They've released age progression images showing what she might look like today in her 40s. They've renewed rewards multiple times, currently offering up to $25,000 for credible information leading to her recovery. Posters bearing her face still circulate. Her family still answers every tip line message. And once a year, on her birthday, Amy's story resurfaces online as the world is reminded of a vibrant young woman who simply vanished in what should have been a safe, happy place, aboard a luxury cruise ship, with her family just feet away. So what happened to Amy Lynn Bradley? Was she taken by someone she trusted? Was she watched, followed, lured into a trap? Did someone use the chaos of a port day to sneak her off the ship? The truth remains shrouded in silence, in delay, in missed opportunities and unanswered questions. The cruise line's cooperation with the family was criticized. Their initial response was slow. Their insistence that she must have gone ashore delayed critical search windows. There was no lockdown, no serious search of the vessel when it mattered most. And over time, memories faded. Evidence grew cold. Witnesses disappeared. The trail, once so full of potential, grew darker. But for her family, there's no moving on, only moving forward. If Amy Lynn Bradley is still alive, if she's still out there, then she's been missing for more than 25 years, held somewhere, waiting for someone to see her, to speak up, to remember her face. And even if the worst has happened, if Amy is no longer alive, her family deserves the truth. They deserve answers. They deserve peace. So this isn't just the end of a story, it's a call. If you have any information, any memory, photo, or tip related to Amy's disappearance, You can contact the FBI or reach out through amybradley.net, because until there are answers, this story isn't over. This is Case Vault, and this was the heartbreaking mystery of Amy Lynn Bradley. How can someone disappear? From a cruise ship filled with thousands of people, a ship equipped with surveillance cameras, staff on every deck, passengers from all over the world, how does a 23-year-old woman simply vanish? She wasn't alone. Her family was just steps away, her belongings untouched, her shoes, her lighter, her cigarettes, still sitting on the balcony. So what happened to Amy Lynn Bradley? The ship was docked in Curacao that morning. The crew believed she'd walked off on her own, but her family knew otherwise. Amy was not the kind of person to just leave. She wasn't running away. She wasn't overwhelmed or scared of the future. She was ready for it. Amy had recently graduated from college. She had a new job waiting for her. She was intelligent, level-headed, grounded. She didn't drink much, didn't use drugs. She wasn't reckless or impulsive. She had every reason to come home. So when she vanished without a trace, it didn't make sense, and it still doesn't. Was this just a tragic accident? Did she fall overboard in the early hours of the morning, slip through a railing? Unlikely. Amy was a trained swimmer, a certified lifeguard. The seas were calm. There were no reports of a splash or a scream, no alarms triggered, no footage of her entering or leaving the cabin, and no body was ever found, even after extensive searches. So, if it wasn't an accident, was it something else? Could Amy have been targeted? Was she marked by someone on the ship or at port who saw her as more than just a tourist? Several experts have weighed in on this case, and many point to one terrifying theory: human trafficking. This possibility is not fiction. Cruise ships are notoriously vulnerable spaces when it comes to organized crime and trafficking. There's limited jurisdiction, minimal law enforcement presence, and an enormous mix of people from different countries and backgrounds. Some cruise staff are hired on short contracts with little background checks. Others form bands or entertainment crews that come and go port to port. It's the perfect storm for someone with bad intentions to operate, hidden in plain sight. And in Amy's case, there were disturbing red flags. A waiter who told her family, "I'm sorry, she's gone," before anyone had publicly declared her missing. The crew member known as Yellow, who was seen dancing with Amy the night before, later gave conflicting stories about his interactions with her. And over the years, numerous sightings emerged, none conclusively proven, but all eerily similar. A woman matching Amy's description in a Curacao restroom, another in a brothel, a third in a blurry photo, chained, injured, and afraid. It's these kinds of stories that make the theory of trafficking feel all too possible. And here's the truth. Someone out there knows what happened. Whether it's a crew member who saw something, a passenger who remembers a detail, a person in Curacao who heard a rumor, or someone holding a terrible secret they've kept for decades. Amy Lynn Bradley's story isn't just a mystery. It's a tragedy that never got answers. It's a family shattered, with no closure. It's a young woman, erased, but she's not forgotten. So we ask again, how can someone disappear from a cruise ship and never be seen again? The answer should have come long ago, but it still can. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think happened to Amy Lynn Bradley? Was it foul play, a targeted abduction, or something else? We want to hear from you. Your voice keeps these stories alive, your curiosity fuels awareness, and your support helps more people discover these forgotten cases. If this story moved you, if Amy's case struck a chord, please consider doing 3 things. Like this video, subscribe to Case Vault. Press the bell icon so you're notified every time we unlock another mystery. Your engagement helps us continue telling stories like Amy's, stories that deserve attention and justice. Next week, we're diving into another unsolved case, one that involves another disappearance, but with a shocking twist that was caught on camera. So until then, stay safe, stay aware, and stay curious, because the truth is out there. And together we're going to find it. This is Case Vault, and this was the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley.